All right, Senator Warner.
Director Watt, it's great to see you. And
Good to see you.
I want to thank you for all your service. I also, as someone who, with Senator Corker and others, have spent years trying to learn the housing finance business. It is extraordinarily complicated and complex. I support a lot of the things you've done around affordability and access. I think it's very important. I support particularly, and one of the things we think we've learned, particularly on the multifamily side, how successful the program has been on multifamily, didn't cause the crisis in the first place, and we need to continue that good work. But one of the things we've granted you as Congress, and because we've failed to put in place a legislative solution, we've granted you as FHFA director during conservatorship enormous, enormous power. And I think you've generally done a very good job. What I wonder, though, and I just got some questions I'd like to run through, and hopefully we can get brief answers because I've got a couple of follow-ups. Your tenure ends in January of 2019. And I would argue editorially that the Trump administration has not been necessarily favorable towards a lot of the expanded access and other issues. But Trump administration, elections have consequences. They're going to appoint a new director in 2019. And some of those forces who say they're for progressive causes, who've been advocates of the status quo, I really do wonder what they will say come January when a new director's put in place. And let me just go through some of the, I believe, some of the powers that your replacement will have, particularly if these entities remain in conservatorship. You know, wouldn't the next FHFA director have the authority to lower loan limits?
Within statutory limits, there are statutory requirements related to
They would be able to
loan
loan
limits.
limits.
Yes.
Would he or she have the authority to?
And some argue that as conservator, we could disregard the loan limit statute.
Some of these could even be.
But I don't agree with that.
But a future director might.
Future director might.
Would he or she have the authority to tighten minimum credit requirements?
Yes.
Would he or she have the authority to raise the overall G fee and increase the loan level price adjustments?
Yes.
Would he or she have the authority to reduce GSE's offerings of certain loan types?
Yes.
And in an area that you've leaned in, and I think appropriately, would he or she have the authority to move GSEs to fully based risk pricing while at the same time rolling back affordability goals and duty to serve goals?
Yes.
So all of the work that you've been able to move forward by leaving these entities in conservatorship, a new director, particularly appointed by this administration, could roll back all that progress and do it administratively without any input from Congress. Is that not correct?
I think that is right. Obviously, it would have, some of those decisions could have consequences for the economy, and I would assume that those consequences would be taken into account because this is a substantial part of the economy. So whatever decisions get made, I hope they get made in a...
Right, but we're hoping, based upon maybe a new enlightened presidential appointee, I'm not sure I would make a large wager on a appointee that would follow your direction in the agency. I also, some of the more recent actions that some of us have been talking about had actually, I think some of the proposals we've been talking about would have dramatically increased the amount of resources going to low and moderate income homeowners, and I think hopefully will be a guidepost on a going forward basis. I just don't understand some of the folks who seem to be caught up with status quo, thinking that status quo is going to be maintained and that your progressive leadership is going to be replaced by this administration's appointee come January when that person will be put forward. Last couple of seconds here. Wouldn't the new director also have the ability to put the entities through receivership, and what would be the effects of putting these entities through receivership?
The authority is there. The impact of doing that would be to erase, without some legislation that did otherwise, would be to erase the government backing. And so that would certainly be a consequence of that.
I just believe, Mr. Chairman, that there's a lot of folks who have been reluctant to fully engage, and you have fully engaged, and I appreciate your work with our office, but a lot of folks who've been reluctant to fully engage on what a legislative solution would be that would still make sure we have that kind of access and affordability. And my great fear is, having indicated all the powers that a director has under conservatorship, that come next year at this point in time, there may be a lot of folks saying, gosh, we missed a really great opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.